Hello, everyone, and welcome to another most excellent episode of the Atheist Experience. I'm your host, Russell Glasser, and with me today is Martin Wagner. Today is Sunday, June 5th, 2011. We are a live call-in public access atheist television show based in Austin, Texas, dedicated to promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. We are also available to an international audience through our live stream at ustream.tv. Check out the website for more details about the show and our parent organization, the Atheist Community of Austin, www.atheist-community.org. You can also provide feedback by visiting the unofficial show blog, atheistexperience.blogspot.com, or email us at tv@atheist-community.org. If you enjoyed the show today, please come join us for dinner after the show, beginning at around 6 at El Arroyo. That's at 1624 West 5th Street in Austin, Texas. How are you this week, Martin?
I am fine, Russell. How are you?
I am very well. I guess we're just going to launch into calls and not make a big to-do about anything that was in the news this week.
Yeah, we can do that. We can...
Yeah, I'll leave some news for Spot.
I was just going to mention before you took the first call that since I won't be on the show again beforehand, I don't think, schedule-wise, I will be going to TAM in mid-July, the weekend of 14th through the 17th.
The Amazing Meeting.
The Amazing Meeting, yes. So anybody wants to meet up there, if you're Atheist Experience fans who are going, I don't know, add me on Facebook and we'll work something out. So, but I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
All right. I am jealous.
Oh. I smuggle you along in my suitcase.
So we are going with, the internet is leaking into the TV show because this person just has a screen name and no real name.
Well, that's
Evolved
fine.
Atheist in Los Angeles. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, and you?
Fine.
Yeah, I've been talking to some atheists, and I'm bothered by something that's going on in the atheist community.
Okay.
I believe that many atheists are actually delusional. Mainly, I'm talking about the pro-gay atheists.
Oh, you're that guy. Okay.
Are you the same guy who called in last time?
No comment.
Okay.
We'll take that as a yes.
We'll take that as a yes.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So,
so you could have just said that.
Before I ask any loaded questions, I'm going to ask you, do you believe atheists who oppose gay marriage are irrational?
Pretty much.
What would the reason be for opposing it?
No, that's the question. I asked you a question. You're asking me a question with the question. That's what Christians do.
Well, I mean, why be opposed to gay marriage? If you have,
I didn't. That's not the question. Could you answer my question,
if it's
please?
going to be this kind of call where you play lawyer, I might just hang up on you right now.
I simply ask you a question.
It depends on the reasons that they give.
Yeah,
do you think?
People ask me if all Christians are irrational.
Because marriage to me is the identity of the ultimate commitment. Is specifically represents the identity of man and woman, the ultimate relationship between man and woman.
Okay, but in my point of view, marriage is a legal contract between two people who agree to basically tether their lives together. And it doesn't really matter that much if they're a man and a woman.
Oh, well, you know what? But guess what? You don't need the word marriage for that.
Well, you kind of do because one of the things that the legal contract entails basically is a whole bunch of stuff like being able to share insurance, automatically being the beneficiary when somebody dies.
Visitation rights, things like that. Yeah.
It's possible for gays to obtain full rights and benefits without the word marriage.
It's possible, but it's a huge pain in the ass, and there's no good reason to deny that sort of thing.
Actually, it is a lot easier.
Oh, well, then why should straight people get married?
I'm sorry?
Why should straight people get married then?
Yeah.
Because the word marriage has been established to be the identity of the ultimate commitment between man and woman. It's already been established.
By who?
By the majority of societies in the world. People around the world have already, another name for it is so established, another name for marriage, another phrase for marriage is husband and wife.
So this is just a case of majority rules. So if a majority then now decides that it's okay for marriage to apply,
that is a straw man fallacy. I never claimed that. Nice try.
That's exactly what you.
That's exactly what you claimed. You said that marriage, the definition of marriage, was defined by the majority of people in society. That right there is majority rule.
I didn't say that. I said the word marriage has been established.
Yes, by.
It's been established as the identity.
By, and we asked by whom, and you said by the majority of people in society.
No. You asked me why the word marriage is for men and women. I think you asked me why is it that way, and I said that because it's been established. I didn't say.
Okay, well then by whom has it?
People want. I said it's been established.
Okay, well then by whom has it been established? That's what we're asking you now.
Well, how has it been established?
Yes, by whom was this establishment made? That identifying marriage as a heterosexual union.
Man and woman. All right.
Okay.
Another name. Wait. Before you cut me off, let me respond. I said another term for marriage is husband and wife. That's what I said. Now that was established by the dictionary, not the majority.
I listened to the call that you called in with last week, and I feel like
that's a red herring fallacy. That is a red herring fallacy.
You don't even know what I was about to say.
All right, go ahead and say what you have to say. Go ahead and say what you're about to say. Hey, I noticed how you jumped off the subject because you're basically losing, and now you want to talk about.
Shut up.
Yeah. You know the whole yammering over other people so they can't get in a word edgewise? That's what Christians do.
What I was about to say was that the problem with the thing that annoyed me about last week's call was that everybody spent so much time worrying about the definition of a word that we never actually got to the practical issue that was at the root of this. So what I would like to ask is...
And doing that all over again. This whole definition of marriage, man, woman, it's about definitions.
Who cares what the words are agreed on to mean? What I want to know is, from a legal point of view, do you think there is something that a gay couple should not get under the force of law that a straight couple should get? Was that line one?
Yeah. You should have, I believe gays should have full equal rights.
Okay.
Without the word marriage.
Oh, okay.
What do you care?
Well, yeah, I mean, why is...
Okay, you know what? Actually, because I simply value the identity. If it's no big deal, why do you care about the word? The cat got your tongue, huh?
Well, I mean, because it's the same thing. You're obsessing over calling it marriage.
So you asked me why I cared about the word. I told you because I value the word marriage.
But why does the word marriage only have value when it refers to a heterosexual union? Why does the word marriage suddenly not have value when it refers to a same-sex union? Why is the word the importance of... you're assigning a certain kind of importance to the word.
Because it has already been established. Just like I said, another term for marriage is husband and wife. And people have grown wait, may I finish? People have grown to value that identity. Now, if it's not let's talk about... If you claim the word is no big deal, then why are you so much after it?
All right, forget about the word. Hold on a minute.
But you're the one obsessing about the word.
Suppose that we decide to grant you this dictionary argument and say, okay, from now on, we will have a new institution which we will call schmarriage, okay? And schmarriage will be functionally identical to marriage in every single way, except that two men or two women can get schmarried and enjoy exactly the same rights under the law as a married couple. Would you be okay with that?
I would be perfectly fine with that. I would support it. I would go out and root for gays.
So your whole argument is one about the English language, not about anything practical.
No, my whole nice straw man fallacy. My whole argument is my whole argument is the simple identity. It's nothing wrong with placing value on an identity. Okay. Know what? I have a question for you. Would you oppose people changing the term homophobia to mean? I mean, would you oppose people changing the term?
I think we've had that discussion once already.
I do not care about the word homophobia right now.
All right, listen.
Yeah. We had that discussion. We had that discussion last time.
Would you oppose people changing the term homosexual to mean anyone with an abnormal brain structure?
That would be stupid.
Yeah, that would be stupid.
It's just the word, right? It's just the word. Why can't schizophrenic people be called homosexual since it's only a word?
Because words have meanings and they have definitions.
I know, but what's wrong with changing the word? I can use your same argument. Why not change the word to mean anybody with an abnormal brain structure?
You're the one obsessing about words, which I find really strange.
I'm using your own argument against you, and you're opposing it. You oppose schizophrenic people using the word homosexual.
The reason I think that's stupid
because schizophrenia means one thing and homophobia means another. Homosexual means another.
Homosexual. I'm talking about. I said homosexual. If they change the term homosexual to mean anyone with an abnormal brain structure, would you oppose it? If it's
so
just
then
the word.
Homosexual would no longer mean attracted to same gender anymore.
No, because it would just have a broader.
So you're not actually just trying to You're not actually just trying to switch words around. You're trying to use a linguistic trick to force people to say that homosexuals have abnormal brain structures.
No, I am not. I am saying, what if schizophrenic people and bipolar people wanted to be labeled homosexual? And
like this is completely getting beside the point. What I don't understand is
how is that hurting homosexuals? See, you oppose that, right? Well, now you see why I oppose gay marriage.
Can I count on you from now on to support gay marriage?
I support marriage or gayage or parriage.
Then we're in agreement, and I don't care about your silly word games. Thank you for calling.
Yeah, because at this point, that's really all you're obsessed about is this word has to refer to this one thing. And apart from that,
bringing people together, that's what we do.
Really. I mean, it's just
William
strange.
in Whiteville, North Carolina. How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
I'm fine.
I was just wondering, because most of y'all seem to talk more about Christianity or lack thereof than practically anything else, which is cool. I don't have a problem with that. But I was just wondering how many other religions did y'all look into before you determined that they didn't have that much validity and you didn't believe in them?
There are, I keep forgetting the number, but I think it's 30,000 separate sects of Christianity alone. So, I mean, the thing is, it would not be practical to go after every single religion and completely learn every detail about every religion that ever existed or does exist now, because that would just be a full-time profession.
And take a couple of lifetimes. That would be a miracle in and of itself.
I think the significant thing is that knowing that your knowledge is imperfect, you should nevertheless remain skeptical about new outrageous claims, which is why on this show we often lead off with the question, what do you believe and why do you believe it? Because it kind of lays all your cards out on the table. You don't have to have sort of an encyclopedic knowledge of what makes, a Northern Fundamentalist Baptist Great Lakes region different from a Northern Fundamentalist Baptist, Council of 1912.
Or the Judean People's Front, the People's Front of Judea.
So, I mean, you should start out, I think, by asking the question, what exactly is it you believe? And if there's something in there that's not supported by evidence, then you should look for justification for that thing. And that's just, common sense.
Okay, that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same thing. I was raised, most of us in America, or who grew up American, because I lived overseas, but, in the American community, you're raised in a Christian community, so that would naturally be...
Right, that's why I assumed that mostly that's what y'all talk about.
But having lived overseas, I was exposed to other cultures, and, I was exposed to Islam and a whole lot of different religious traditions coming out of Southeast Asia, where else they lived. But then there's, Christianity has a very strong presence there. So, you're right. I mean, it's a matter of, at this point, yes, I have not investigated however many thousands upon thousands of religions exist in the world. But if one were to come to me and make a particular claim or set of claims, I'd evaluate them like I'd evaluate anything else. And if I found out that one actually had some claims that were backed up by evidence, well, that might be interesting. It wouldn't necessarily win me over as an immediate convert, because I might still have quite a few questions. But yeah, we're constantly doing this show. The very act of doing this show, we learn quite a lot of things. We actually got a call. We have a regular viewer who is a polytheist. Practices something I never heard of.
I was actually about to ask about that next, but I'll let you.
Yeah, I never heard of it. Interesting, and certainly that sort of religion that she practices is, all things compared to the monotheistic ones that enjoy, throwing bombs at people. Seems like a pretty peaceful bunch of folks, So if you had to go for religion, something like that might be at least fairly benign. But on the whole, it all just comes down to what claims you are being asked to accept and whether or not they stand up to evidence.
Yeah, what I think is if you get confronted by a particular religion which makes claims you've never heard before, you should absolutely feel free to go ahead and investigate that particular religion. But also, I would recommend Guy P. Harrison's book, 50 Reasons People Give for Believing in a God.
Repeat that?
Guy,
repeat that?
Yeah, Guy P. Harrison.
Okay.
That's Guy, G-U-Y, and his book is 50 Reasons People Give for Believing in a God. And the reason is...
50 Reasons People Give. Okay.
People give for believing in God, because he goes around interviewing a whole bunch of different people from all kinds of different faiths, and he finds out that no matter what the particulars of their faith are, they all wind up sort of falling back on these same kind of general categories of reasons. And so, it's interesting how very similar the justifications are when you're considering things that don't have any evidence for them.
Okay. Oh, that's cool. Okay, I guess on that note, I guess I'll leave, but I guess I will ask, what do you think about, obviously I guess y'all don't believe in polytheistic religions.
No.
But, what do you think about their validity, or their, as a philosophy, I guess, is? Because that's kind of what I'm looking into now, most of the polytheistic.
Again, you'd have to take it on a case-by-case basis and see what sort of philosophical ideas they're putting forth. I don't know what they all are. Again, even if a religion has some philosophical notions that I agree with, and I even think that there are some things about Christianity that are
very little.
Very little, but every once in a while Jesus would, maybe by accident, but he'd say something like, love one another and that kind of thing. So, well, that's a nice thing to say. Sure, that's a great sentiment.
Yeah, but
even
general,
there, that doesn't mean that the claims you're being asked to make that are the foundation of whatever that particular belief system is would be true. So that's what matters.
I think it's important to base your philosophy on stuff that you have a reason to believe may be true, because like the logician Bertrand Russell used to demonstrate, if you start from a false premise, then you can reach any conclusion, and it doesn't matter how outlandish it is. So you need to be very careful about what you accept in your sort of lexicon of true things.
Okay, that's a good point. All right, well, love the show. I guess I'll keep on listening. Talk to you later, maybe.
Thanks so much for calling.
Yep, no problem.
All right. Next, we have Vaughn in Houston, Texas. Are you there?
Hello?
Hi, Vaughn.
Vaughn?
Hey, guys, how's it going?
Just fine.
Thanks. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. Just wanted to tell you first off that I appreciate the show. I myself am, I call myself an agnostic theist.
Okay. Perfectly reasonable.
Though I am calling in to just throw in particular evidence for God.
Oh, great.
I should go ahead and note that I don't believe that any evidence currently out there is completely bulletproof, but I do think that it can point us in the right direction.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and present a fine-tuning argument. I'm not sure how familiar y'all are with that.
Pretty familiar.
But I'll just go ahead and do the deductive one and just say that the fine-tuning, my premise number one, is that the fine-tuning of the universe is due to either physical necessity, chance, or design. And then my premise number 2 is it is not due to physical necessity or chance. And the conclusion is, therefore, it is due to design.
What about combinations of necessity and chance? I mean, like, for instance, if I take a funnel and I drop a bunch of sand on the ground, I can't predict exactly where each grain of sand is going to fall, but I know that it's going to fall in a roughly cone shape. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, roughly, yes.
So, I mean, things are not either just chance or just necessity, right? I mean, they follow certain laws and they can be expected to follow certain patterns, but they're not completely predictable, right?
Well, wait, could you go ahead and reiterate that last statement for me? I'm sorry.
They follow physical laws and they can follow sort of probabilistic patterns, but you can't perfectly predict exactly what's going to happen.
And another thing I think that's worth pointing out is that we only refer to, in situations like this and in ontological discussions, what have you, we talk about chance simply when we don't know what all of the factors were that were actually involved. I mean, there may have been, so a lot of times talking about chance is simply, it's a placeholder for ignorance of what the actual conditions might have been. It may seem like chance, but we just don't have enough information to make a definite conclusion.
I would agree that we don't have definite. I'm sorry. Are you still talking?
Yeah. No. Go ahead.
Go on.
Okay. I would agree though that I don't think we have a specific range for every single constant out there. But I think most physicists and mathematicians recognize. Even Stephen Hawking recognizes that. Man, there's a little echo there. It's annoying me.
Yeah, sorry. We have phone problems sometimes.
That's all right. That's all right. No, but I think, that most physicists, mathematicians recognize this problem, and they realize that there is no solution current. I mean, I'm not about to throw out out of the gaps argument, because this is actually advancement in science, not lack of. But I would say that they recognize it, and so they're trying to find
leap to a
ways
supernatural
out.
conclusion.
I'm sorry?
I don't know.
Can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Well, actually, you should describe the particular problem you're referring to instead of just alluding to it, because you're saying there's an unsolved problem, but you're not saying what it is.
Sorry. Well, the problem themselves is the certain chances, and I can list a few. That's really distracting. Sorry. No, I can list a few of the different facts that go on there with the probability and so forth of the entropy of the universe and different constants, carbon-based and so forth. But did I get shut off?
I mean, there are a lot of things that are often listed as examples of things that are really, really unlikely to occur in any particular place. But at the same time, we don't know how many billions or trillions of planets out there that could be attempts for life to have come about.
Precisely.
And we don't actually know, for instance, how many universes there are or how we can compare them.
Right.
Yeah, no. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't see where in the original argument, as you had it stated, where the justification was from going from where you were in premise 1, listing those 3 options. They were chance, design, or the middle one was necessity, chance, necessity, or design. And then you went immediately into premise 2, which is that it is definitely and not chance or necessity, and therefore.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure how you justified that leap. Oh, because as you just said, we don't know.
That y'all were familiar with the different probabilities.
Okay.
Or at least somewhat familiar. I think I can list a few for y'all if y'all want me to.
Well, as what you said. Okay.
I think Hugh Ross, unfortunately, is a theist. So y'all might reject
well,
that on that
unfortunately,
reason.
he's Hugh Ross.
He is Hugh Ross. That D-bag him. No. He said that the chance of our planet existing in the universe at first is 1 in 10 to the 30th power. And
how does he come to that conclusion?
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting point.
Yeah, see, that's
well,
the thing.
I mean, it's the point, because, I mean, I don't think that any scientist worth his salt would come up with some kind of single unique event that can be observed to have happened and say in hindsight, oh, the chances of that are such and such, because we don't really have anything to compare it to.
Right.
And generally, I mean, when you take a guy like Hugh Ross, he's kind of, I mean, creationists are very fond of making up these very large numbers in a vacuum that aren't actually supported by the science.
Yeah, and
some of the ones you're about to read are.
And it's an argument. It's an argument from very big numbers, and the idea is that people are unduly impressed, I think, by really big numbers. They need to be less impressed by really big numbers, because all you are essentially saying when you say that the odds of X happening are 1 to a billion, jillion, quadrillion, zillion, bajillion.
Right,
all you're really saying is, well, okay, in this particular instance, a highly mathematically unlikely event happened.
Yeah.
I mean, there's high odds or not, therefore it must have been. Again, what's the figure? I think if you're playing cards, a 52-hand deck, and you're dealt an average bridge hand, the odds against you getting the actual hand of cards you're dealt by the dealer.
52 factorial.
Yeah,
wait.
right. Yeah,
and 52 factorial divided by 1 minus the number of cards, but
Yeah, so those are very high odds against you getting the
like
actual hand of cards that you got dealt. So because those odds were high, is it rational to leap to the conclusion, well, this particular hand that I was dealt must in fact have been designed for me? Of course not.
Right. I'll go ahead and try and respond in the best way that I can to that. But first, let me go ahead and say that I don't think it's. I mean, it's not only theists in general who come up with these different numbers. I think Stephen Hawking, and perhaps The Grand Design. I'm not sure which which book he wrote that he estimated. I think it was there's like the expansion rate of the the universe from the Big Bang singularity.
Right.
He said even like one part in 100,000 million would result in the universe's collapse. Which I do understand your point, where you say, how do they know that? But I think ultimately, I think ultimately that rebuttal sort of falls short. That's just me personally, just because
I'm not sure that you're getting Hawking right. I'd like to see that actual quote from him. But I know that you can't just pull it up while you're on the air right now. So.
Absolutely, yeah. I know. I could say anything right now, and it's hard to falsify.
Well, let's get the central question is, let's say, because I want to move this along here. Let's say that the fine-tuning argument is being put forth as an argument for Christianity. Okay, it's an argument for the existence of the God.
It wouldn't name any specific God.
Well, let's just say, Hugh Ross, take it for granted, he's Christian, so he is going to make a fine-tuning argument in favor of arguing the existence of the Christian God. So let's just put it in that context for the sake of this discussion so we can move on. All right, the Christian God, let's get away from the math, get away from the big numbers, get away from the physics and all the rest of it. The Christian God is said to be omnipotent. If the Christian God is omnipotent and he designed the universe, why would he need to fine-tune it?
I've read.
See,
this,
I mean, you can take the theological end of it and look at the fact that Christians believe in a particular God with a particular set of attributes, and then they understand though that in a rational scientific society, it's now no longer good enough to just be able to say, well, the Lord works in mysterious ways and attribute things to magic. You need to come up with a scientific justification. But here is where they run into this kind of stumbling block. They now have to understand that when they apply these scientific principles to things, then such notions like, well, God is omnipotent, God is, we hear this all the time. If the Earth were only, were this much closer or this much farther to the sun than it actually is, we'd freeze or we'd burn up. Therefore, It must have been put here in this particular place for us to be on. But the point is, if we are talking about a universe created by an omnipotent designer God, that doesn't matter. The Earth could be anywhere. There could be life on every single planet in the solar system. There could be life floating around in the depths and vacuum of space. There could be life on the surface of the sun. There are no limits to a God who is all-powerful. He could put life wherever he wanted. So these sorts of things create a bigger problem for the theist than for the skeptic, I think.
Well, I agree, and before y'all go ahead and cut me off, I'm not y'all personally, but the show itself.
Yeah. Well, we just need to move on to some other calls here.
Right. Well, let me go ahead and say that I think that, first of all, I'm not personally arguing for the Christian God, just a simple deity. I think any philosopher or physicist worth his marbles wouldn't be arguing for any deity with specific personality.
Well, at least we agree that Hugh Ross is not a philosopher worth his marbles.
Yeah. So we can dismiss all Hugh then.
but I will say to that last point though, I think ultimately it sort of sounds like you presuppose, either naturalism or atheism, because if we do look at it from the point of view that there is an actual deity out there, then the rebuttal doesn't really make much sense to me, because they could have used it. Yes, they could have used any sort of constants or any sort of physical constants or independent laws of nature to do what they wanted. But if they did choose these independent laws of nature, then we're still left with these probabilities. So ultimately, I don't find that too convincing.
But then why should we make that presupposition, though?
I do want to make ask one other question, which is: has anybody applied these same methods to calculate the probability of a super intelligent universe-creating being existing? Can you hear me?
I think. Did we lose him? Did we lose Vaughn, controller?
No taunts from the chat room. I mean, that sounds like a real accidental cutoff.
Okay, yeah, sorry. I think we lost Vaughn.
Okay. Yeah, sorry.
See,
the call was running a little long.
But see, now if you want to get to like this sort of deistic prime mover God, I think for it to be meaningful at all, we want to at least sort of know what we're talking about if we talk about a deity.
Right.
Because at this point, just deity becomes a placeholder for whatever force created the universe that we don't know what it is yet. Yeah. And so there's no reason to assume that there's anything anthropomorphic about that thing. There's no reason to assume that it is, in fact, a being with thoughts and desires and intentions and agendas and reasons for doing what it does. It could be an entirely natural force. It could be, we could have popped in here from a black hole from another universe. Who knows? Whatever hypotheses.
And the point I was trying to get at there at the end was that with all these arguments about how complicated it is, and then jumping to an assumption about how it must be one particular thing, which is an intelligence, just like a lot of arguments for God, the chain of reasoning sort of stops dead when you get to the God. I mean, there's no logic that a theist thinks needs to be applied to the mere fact that a God exists. They just are able to take that for granted.
Mm-hmm. Well, because again, they start their argument from that presupposition.
Right, and I mean,
build upon it. So.
A God, if it exists, would have to be much more complicated and much more unfathomable and much more unlikely than the thing you're explaining with it. Mm-hmm. And so, using the God as an explanatory mechanism doesn't really end the argument the way they think it does.
Yeah, right. Because again, you have to know what you're talking about. Even when you talk about a God, you have to know, well, what are these attributes that it has? How does it create universes, and why?
Right. And if you say it's just there, mm-hmm. then you've appealed to the same problem that you say the people who are just not explaining the universe for you are saying. Right. Jeff in Atlanta.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Just fine. Thanks for waiting.
Just had a quick question for you. What age do you think that teenagers should start schmating? No, but in all seriousness, I just thought that was funny when you said schmarriage. That just cracked me up. Uh-huh. But no, my main question, I'm sort of a non-stamp collector myself, like yourself. But
yes.
I'm kind of like the last caller, where I'm open to the idea that everything was designed, but like you, I think, it is kind of absurd to just say it must be the Christian God. If you can prove that much, why would you just take the next step and accept everything in the Bible? That just seems absurd to me. But the main thing that frustrates me about theists is they never really want to talk about the actual supernatural events. I mean, you have the miracles of Jesus, which they'll defend, but they never want to talk about, like, demons. I mean, like, are demons an issue? Like, what's going on there, I mean,
well, some do.
Mentioned,
some do. I think some are very much into the whole possession thing.
Enlighten me. How much are demons really mentioned in the Bible?
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting to me that demons tend to possess Catholics more than any other group when they're the ones that can deal with it the best, If I were a demon, I'd go straight for the atheist, but I guess demons are pretty dumb.
Well, we're already demons.
Yeah, so...
Right, we are the demons, right. No, I just think it's absurd that, if you look at the amount of time that's spent in the Bible talking about different things, it's so obviously not meant for the 21st century. I mean... there's 5 verses maybe about demons, and it sounds like a pretty serious issue.
Do you know what verses those are? I'm just not.
Sure. I really don't. I know it's in the Gospels, but the child being possessed by a demon, and he throws the demons into pigs, and they go into the water, and it's like, you guys don't want to talk about that?
Yeah, there are the accounts of Jesus driving demons out and what have you.
Right,
So, but
right.
It doesn't seem to play a huge role. It just seems to be the stories that are brought up to as examples of here's how awesome Jesus was. And so it was more,
right. But it sounds like the disciples were given instructions to cast them out, and to continue the demon exorcism.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're right. There are the Bible's a big book of multiple choice, right? So the believers will take out of it what they are comfortable with. They will either ignore, or they'll give you some nice little bit of spin about the bits that they're not quite so comfortable with. And ultimately what you will find is that there are 100 different Bibles out there for 100 different Christians.
Right.
They do ultimately apply their values, which may, to some extent be informed by their religious beliefs, but in some instances, they, I think, are capable of recognizing when there are things in the Bible that are either just morally objectionable, or they're intellectually just insulting, things like demons being driven into pigs and things like that. They're just primitive
absurd,
ideas. And they'll, in those cases, they may say something like, well, that's a parable, or that's a story that is meant to be symbolic to represent X, Y, Z. So,
right.
Yeah. It's funny how there will always be fundamentalists who will take a strictly literalist interpretation of everything out there. So there are today fundamentalist Christians who actually believe that yes, a snake talked, and, said words to a man and a woman in a garden, right? But they're getting the ones that are that hardcore either are sensible enough to shut up about it, or they'll most Christians will just say yes, but these are stories that are meant to teach us lessons, and some images are symbolic.
Well, it just seems absurd that if we're talking about lessons, that they don't spend the right amount of time on different things. Like in the book of Leviticus, I just said that they don't really talk about demons or how to identify them. But in the book of Leviticus, we have like 4 pages about skin conditions, and all of a sudden God is a dermatologist.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's,
by the way, that story about
micromanaging.
That story about the demons and the pigs is in Matthew 8. Sorry, that didn't come immediately to mind.
Oh, that's fine. We can't be expected to.
But I mean, if there are different kinds of people who take the Bible with different degrees of seriousness, and the ones who, the extremists, like let's say Harold Camping, you ask him about the passages with demons, and he's going to say, well, yeah, of course, that, meant every word of that. That goes on all the time. And the people who are less serious about the Bible will say, oh, well, the Bible is poetry. I mean, you can't take it literally.
It's poetry.
I mean, the demons,
the
demons are symbolic of the human condition, or some crap like that.
Sure. Yeah.
True. All right. Well, I appreciate you taking my call, and have a good one, guys.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for calling.
All right. Thanks. See you.
Okay.
Alex in Muncie.
Oh, hey, I'm on.
Yes,
there.
Thanks for waiting.
Give me a second. You guys are on here, and I got a delay. There we go.
Your hometown is the same as something that was highlighted in the Hudsucker Proxy, which is one of the more obscure Coen Brothers movies. Sorry.
Being such a geek.
Movie geek.
Fantastic.
Good movie, though.
Much to the disappointment of the chat room here, I am an atheist. But I will say that I was arguing with my brother recently. He doesn't consider himself an atheist because he believes in spirits and whatnot, but whatever. But he told me about noetic science, and I did not know what the hell that was. So I looked it up, and apparently it's the science, quote-unquote, of mind over matter. Or that the spirit resides in the mind and can influence the outside world.
Sounds to me like the word science is being grossly misapplied here.
Yeah. It's like, where does the science come in? Where do the repeatable experiments and the predictions?
The thing is, he has a lot of claims that I just can't look up, where he says, well, they've done studies where positive thinking can cause people to come to overcome their cripple or something. I
think your first mistake is where you said you can't look it up. He's making the claim. It's his job to look it up. He can't just say those studies are out there. He should give them to you.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but if somebody makes a claim, I immediately want to at least see if there's any validity to it. I don't automatically believe it, but if we're arguing and we're both drinking, I'm not going to expect him to go over to the computer and
you gotta hold his feet to the fire on that stuff.
But later when he sobers up, you say, I still don't believe that. I mean, I'd still really like to see that study you mentioned when you were drunk.
Yeah. I could do that.
I mean, if he says that, dude, there are actual scientific studies out there, and then you look for it and you say, well, I looked and I can't find it, then, I mean, you're not obligated to just take his word for it.
Yeah, you don't have to do his homework for him.
Well, the thing is, he's sort of a conspiracy theorist of sorts, so he doesn't think that I'll find anything on the internet because that stuff is censored.
Okay.
So which
stop talking to this guy.
Yeah, he's my brother. I can't stop doing that. But
it's we've had conspiracy theorists call the show, and then they make their big claims, and we say, well, where can we find out about this? And they say, well, you can't because it's been suppressed. And then we ask, well, how do you know about it, right? So it's you're dealing with a definite kind of mind there that I think perhaps needs to just be waved at.
The problem with arguing with a conspiracy theorist is I guarantee they will have more stamina than you. You will get bored long before they do, and they will still be emailing you crap, and I think the only thing you can do is just filter it to trash at a certain point.
True. I mean, I'm talking about a guy who thinks that there is a government conspiracy to put stamps on the back of everybody's hands so that they can track us all.
If I were talking to this guy, I would say, are these guys related to the people who are putting stamps on your hand? I mean, because everything just boils down to a big joke at a certain point.
For conspiracy theorists. Yeah, I'll admit that there are times where he just says stuff that's completely bonkers and off the wall. But the thing is, for the most part, he's a rational person until he gets to this transcendental idea of spirits and mind over matter and all that kind of stuff. He starts thinking, there could be this stuff. And I think the main reason he believes this stuff is because he wants to believe this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like any religious belief. It's very similar. There's an emotional investment in the belief, and there's a sense of personal validation that comes from embracing the belief.
I think the most valuable thing you could do from a general skeptical standpoint is, because one of the things that these conspiracy theories do is that they discount as illegitimate any attempts to confirm through research their claims. So, one thing you could do is really read up on how peer-reviewed scientific journals work and why they're used the way they are and why it's expected that people will actually defend their work in order to make it a legitimate science. Because if somebody doesn't meet that standard, it doesn't matter how effectively they're able to spin the massive worldwide conspiracy, they can't claim the mantle of science and at the same time dismiss all of the scientific method, basically.
Well, I understand what you mean because I've actually done the same thing to other people that I've argued with. Recently, I was talking to another person who was talking about something very similar to noetics, he was talking about how religion has found stuff out that science is only just now catching up with, like yin and yang. That's the same thing.
When did science validate yin and yang? I mean,
well, yeah, it was weird. He said yin and yang has been proved by science. I'm like, wait a minute, when? And he goes, well, and then he started naming off some alternative medicine gurus like Chakwas, and I looked these guys up. I said, they have no published work on this field. What are you talking about? And he goes, well, the scientists don't want anybody violating their naturalistic philosophy. I said,
the conspiracy theory comes up again.
Right, fine. And I say, you don't believe in science. Why not just say that and get it out of the way and not pretend that this is validated by science? You can't both not believe in science and say it's true because it's science.
Yeah. This is the great tragedy of our educational system, because the fact is the realities of the world that are in fact revealed to us by science are amazing, wondrous things. They are every bit as capable of generating as much as 10 times the awe of any of these blithering fantasies of conspiracy theorists and people out there hawking woo and chakras and whatever the hell else is, being, the alt medicine crowd is, the reality is so much more amazing than the impoverished imaginations of these people. But in our educational system has just failed so epically at communicating the actual sense of wonder that science can provide us, that people looking for that go to these other sources where they get it. So they go to the woo practitioners and the
they
Deepak
go
Chopras
through
and
extremes to try and validate what they want to believe.
Yeah, and when you realize it's just sort of if they had any idea how much more incredible actual provable demonstrable scientifically demonstrable reality actually is, it would be I think their lives would be richer for it. But anyway.
Okay, that's all I wanted to discuss. Chat room's yelling at me, so you guys get the next
chat
they
room,
yell at everybody.
They yell at everyone.
Just ignore them.
They're yelling at us right now.
We don't care, chat room.
All right, I'll let you guys get the next caller.
All right, thanks for calling.
Adios.
Leo in Vienna, Austria.
Leo, he's been waiting. Leo?
Yeah, hi.
Hello.
Hi. Long distance.
Russell and Martin, nice to chat to you.
Yeah, nice to hear from across the pond.
Yeah.
Farther than that.
Thanks. I wanted to respond to the first caller. I think he was called Evolved Atheist or something.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Also named Charlie.
Okay. He made a point about the social meaning of the word marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where he loses the debate. Because I would agree with him that there is a value to the term marriage. But that is why you have to enable everyone to use it.
Okay.
The moment you stop one group of people from being entitled to use it, you're basically denigrating them to a second-class citizen.
Precisely.
Sort of like the separate but equal issue between blacks and whites in the United States in the 60s.
Right.
Yes. Exactly.
Yep.
I think the term, you can look at it in this way. If marriage is purely a religious term, which is, I think, where he's coming from.
And it's not.
Yeah, it isn't. But if it is,
and I don't think that's where he's
the
coming
state
from.
shouldn't be intervening. You should not get tax or inheritance or any of those things. But if it's something that it's state endorsed, then it cannot be religious only. Then on purely secular means, you have to come with a secular reasoning why a certain group of people should not be entitled to use the term.
Mm-hmm.
More specifically, more importantly, I think that within our social group, we have automatic rights that we give just by giving someone the term married. So, for example, if I go to a hospital and I say, well, I'm his partner, wife, husband, whatever, I'm now the next of kin, I'm entitled to have medical procedures approved or disprove medical procedures when they are unconscious. This is a right that is unquestioned. It doesn't have to be verified in any other means. The moment you demand a contract or any other way of proving it, well, you have to bring the piece of paper, the ID, to prove that you are who you say you are.
Mm-hmm.
This debilitates your ability to react in cases of emergency.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're creating an entire different state of events from one group of people and another the name itself has value for us socially. That's why it's important for us to enable everyone to use it within society.
Yeah, of course, that I was joking when I was proposing a separate word, marriage.
Yeah.
No, but I think we were making it completely different.
Point, your argument was asking about whether they have the same rights.
But I mean, from a practical point of view, it would be ridiculous and insane to set up a whole parallel institution that sets out to accomplish exactly the same things as a legal system that we already have and works perfectly well.
Yeah.
And what's agreed on as the meaning of the word for a legal term can change. I mean, that's the whole point of having a constitution that has sort of the capacity to make allowances for local law enforcement and to change itself over time with enough support.
And this was the question that I was trying to ask Charlie earlier too. And again, I guess it's very hard to sort of get it out, and didn't probably articulate it as well as I could have, which is when we ascertained that he was not out to deny gay couples any rights. In fact, he came out and said, no, I think that they should have the same rights. And so I just don't want them to call it marriage. It became this whole issue about the importance of a word. And that's why I was wondering is, why does he have the fixation on words and how he chooses to define them, when I believe that the more important issue that we have to deal with is the rights of people and the rights of the individuals involved, and how their actual lives are impacted, and why, when that's the issue, and you don't have any desire to impinge upon rights, why still try to make this big argument about words and what they mean and what they should mean and what traditional meanings have always been, and why it's important to hang on to that? That was not something that I could quite understood from him. I didn't. It was just like when he called on the week before last, and Tracy and I were on, and he was hung up on this whole idea of the colloquial definition of homophobia having to do with more disgust than fear. And the overall issue is, well, it doesn't really matter, right? Is the attitude here that you hate gay people and you want to defy them rights? Or is it just that you are, as a straight person, turned off by gay sex acts? Well, yeah, most straight people do find gay sex acts distasteful. That's part of being straight, but that doesn't mean that you dislike the people as human beings. It doesn't mean that you want to deprive them of basic rights to family, life, liberty, happiness. That's the important thing. But he's hung up on words, he's hung up on marriage, he's hung up on homophobia and how to define these things. And I don't understand why that's such a priority for him. So maybe he can explain later.
I mean, I can see, I think, a side to it, or perspective to it. I completely agree with both of you and the angle you took in terms of the key moral principle of rights underpinning the idea. That whether he calls it homophobia or not, what does he really believe? I can see that point. Mm-hmm. But equally, words have value and meaning because we agree on what they mean. If he comes and says that homophobia means something which it doesn't, well, no one else will understand it. The same problem comes with the word marriage. The moment he agrees that marriage has value to people, a meaning to people, then the question is, what is that meaning, and why should we not allow other people to use that label? By what justification should we prevent some couple from applying that label on themselves?
Yeah. Well, I think the reason that he gave us was sort of an appeal to tradition, right? Yes. Marriage has always been historically referring to male-female unions. So,
yes,
and that was pretty much all that he
was my point.
That's all he had.
The point was that the moment you recognize that it has a value within society, then you lose because of that value. Then you've proven that it's discriminatory, because we need to keep that same term with the same inherent value in the term to allow all other people to use it without the discrimination.
Yeah, because in a sense, it's his whole argument about how to define homophobia essentially is contradicting what he's now trying to make as an argument pertaining to how to define marriage, right?
It was ludicrous.
But we don't want to get on with this whole sort of thing.
We're running out of time.
More calls in. I'm sorry.
And I appreciate you calling from this long distance, and thanks for the discussion. And we're almost out of time, which means we're going to be doing some triage on some callers, and I know there are at least a couple we are not going to be getting to.
We can answer Ashley quickly and Vincent
in Pittsburgh,
quickly.
Pennsylvania. We talked to Damon Fowler. Wants to know about the teenager who opposed prayer at the high school graduation. He was on the Nonprofits last week, so look that up.
Nonprofitsradio.com.
Yeah, look that up in that discussion, and you can stay on for the after show if you want.
And Vincent, what do we think of the Catholic sex abuse cases? Well, what do you think? We're
against them.
Yeah, we don't like those. Those are bad. Yes.
Yeah.
I would like them to shut the Vatican down, turn the Sistine Chapel into an art museum, arrest the Pope, arrest all the priests, shut them, send the money to poor countries, and get rid of that bunch over there.
Mark from Stone Church, I've really enjoyed personally the time that I've spent talking to you, but I think that if you want to discuss with us anything else, then you should take us up on our offer and come on down to Threadgills after the show, like all of you other people. Oh, yes. Shoot. El Arroyo. Come on down to El Arroyo on 5th Street. And if you don't want to meet in an area where you're outnumbered, get in touch, tv@atheist-community.org. I will personally take you to lunch sometime.
There you go. You can't beat an offer like that.
So let's see. And, okay, that just leaves a few minutes for Benjamin in Paris, France. Hi.
Yeah, hi, guys.
You seem to be the last caller.
How you doing?
Yeah. Last but not least. Thanks for taking my call. Well, I was wondering, I've been watching your show for a couple of years now. I was wondering, I know you're living in the most religious country in the Western world, and you live in the Bible Belt, if I'm right. Why don't you just leave?
Well, first of all, I mean, there are some really good jobs in Austin.
Yeah.
Second of all, if the United States becomes an evil theocracy with our vast arsenal of nuclear weapons and and a military that is larger than I think the next 19 countries combined or something like that, do you really think we'll be safe anywhere else?
Well, I found your
We're
answer
fighting
very,
them from
very
within, you
interesting
know.
Because your answer is very interesting, because when I send you an email, Russell, asking you to talk about the toilet paper ban in France, you just say, well, why don't you just leave and go buy something anywhere,
by your own petard.
else? Do you remember me?
Yes, now I do. Okay.
Well, I can tell you really quickly in our last few seconds, we don't leave because the fact we don't leave pisses the Christians off, and they don't like being reminded that this is a pluralistic society. It's full of
and even though
gays,
I'm
atheists,
French, I won't surrender without a fight.
There you go.
We do have nuclear bombs too. That's why I'm against Islam, of course, and I just wanted to tell you I do appreciate the fact that you say, well, you just...
that's our show.
No, I'm sorry, you didn't have to hang up on him. We could have just gone on.
Well,
Benjamin, thanks. Yeah, thanks for calling, Benjamin. But you're right. That's pretty much our answer. And email us again, okay? But we had to be done.
Bye.
Well. Are we just sitting here?
I don't know. Is it over? It should be over, right?
So, yes.
I essentially hung up on him on email, too. So.